And good evening, producer Susan. How are you doing this evening? Not this afternoon. We're getting a late start today, huh?
I'm doing great, Jersey Joe. How are you?
I'm just fine, thank you. Went to the dermatologist the other day and had a bunch of cryosurgery. Got a bunch of scabs on my face, but other than that, I'll be good. You know, you spend too much time in the sun, you get all these little age spots and precancerous growth. So I got a face full of scabs today. Anyway, we're running out of time. We're getting a late start, and I got a ton of stuff. So anyway, today's April 30th, last day of the month. It's the situation with Jersey Joe, news and perspective you won't hear in TV. Um, our quote of the week this week is from Charles Darwin, and what he determined and what he said will determine which species survive. Hint, it is not based on strength or speed. They have nothing to do with it. Have you heard his quote before and what determines which species will survive?
Uh, Survival of the fittest.
Well, he'll tell you what that means. What fittest is actually not the fittest. Um, by the way, in our
Adaptable.
stupidest in our stupidest thing I've heard all week, we have two contenders. The first, and hopefully this isn't you, we have a clip of a woman who makes visitors to her house who have to use the bathroom. She doesn't let them poop in her toilet. She hands them a little trowel and makes her go out in the backyard and dig a hole and poop in a hole. And we'll play a clip of her explaining why she does that. And in the second, we'll tell you about the Colorado State Legislature apparently doesn't think the First Amendment applies to them because they've issued a list of words and phrases that they say can't be used in any legislative proposals or any debate about any legislation. Um, so we'll talk about whether or not that violates the First Amendment, and you get to pick which one of those is the stupid of the two. We'll tell you how much money Ford lost in the first quarter this year. Ford sold about 10,000 electric vehicles, and they've been keeping separate set of books on their electric vehicle division. We'll tell you how much money they lost on those 10,000 electric vehicles. The number is astounding. Um, you remember the Jetsons, Rosie the robot, the housekeeper?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
there's a restaurant in California now that's using a robot to deliver food to customers.
Mm.
And they call her Rosie, and we'll tell you about that and why that may put a lot of waiters and waitresses out of business. We'll tell you which nearby communist country is running out of both food and cash. Can you imagine going to the bank and they tell you, you have a check? I'm sorry, we don't have any cash today. Can you imagine? No cash, or you go to the ATM and the
That
ATM
actually happens around here on football weekends.
on football weekend? Okay. Well, it's happening in this country on a daily basis. And we'll tell you about the perfect gift. You know any guys who have everything?
Yep, I know a few.
Well, we're going to tell you about a flame-throwing robot dog.
I saw that.
The perfect gift for the man who has everything. Um, and I'm sure you heard about the tragedy in Charlotte where four police officers were killed the other day.
Yes.
Well, we're going to tell you who the killer was and why he wasn't legally allowed to own a gun. And our taxpayer relief shot comes to us from Hapesville, Georgia, where a man shoots and kills one of two armed men trying to rob him at gunpoint in a parking garage, and you'll never guess what the second guy did. But I'm sure you can guess what happened to the second guy.
Probably ran away.
Probably ran away his right. Anyway, here we go. Our quote of the week from the late Charles Darwin, who wrote The Origin of the Species on the theory of evolution. And here was his quote about survives. He said, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change."
Yep.
Think about that. You don't have to be smart, you don't have to be strong, you just need to be able to adapt. Heat, cold, drought, famine, flood. It's the one that can adapt. And by the way,
Yep.
two of the most adaptive creatures are alligators and cockroaches, right?
Yep.
They've I think they're the two of the oldest species on Earth, by the way. So again, it's survival depends on your ability to adapt, not being strong or smart or fast. All right. So you want to go to our stupidest thing I've heard all week?
What's the stupidest thing you heard this week?
Well, again, we have two contenders. The first is this woman, and let me explain. In the video, she doesn't let people poop in her bathroom, in her toilet. She makes them go outside, and in her backyard, she has put up a clothesline with a sheet across it for private. She has a fenced backyard, and she's put up a sheet on a hanging clothesline so you have privacy, but she hands you a little trowel and an instruction sheet. You have to go out in her backyard behind the sheet, dig a little hole, and poop in the hole because she won't let you poop in her toilet.
And why won't she let you poop in her toilet?
Well, here we go. I'll let her explain it to you.
Require all my guests to use the bathroom.
Hang on, let me back this up, start this over.
Require all my guests to use the bathroom outside. Hi, my name is Ivy Bloom, and this is my outdoor potty area. I used to let my friends use the bathroom in my house, but I've since learned how unsanitary that is. Before entering the potty area, I require guests to put on these foot covers, and first-timers are required to read the rules. The most important rule is to dig at least 6 inches from an existing stick, because
She has these little stick markers. When you bury your poop, you have to put a marker in saying, this is my poop hole. So when you go out to do yours, you have to do at least 6 inches from the previous poop marker. Here we go.
that's where another guest has dug a hole. It's pretty simple. You just dig a hole, do what you have to do, and put your toilet paper on top. I provide seeds that must be placed inside to keep my garden growing. And once that's placed inside, you cover it up with the dirt you dug up, and then place some leaves on top. The last thing you have to do is mark the spot with one of these sticks. I do live in Arizona and it gets really hot, so I provide a bucket with refreshments and snacks that visitors can snack on while using the bathroom. And yes, there is a privacy curtain. Once that's done, they can take the covers off their feet and wash them in this bucket. Then they have to place them in this jar so that the next guest can use them. Once my guest is done using the bathroom, I require them to sign this journal. And I do respectfully ask for tips because maintaining this area can get a little expensive.
So what do you think? Is that something you're going to adopt?
She said it's because it's unsanitary to use her bathroom, but I don't get it. I don't understand. And why would you be friends with her? Why would you be friends with this person?
Well, you ought to think about this, and maybe I know you occasionally have out-of-town guests come during
Often.
Penn State football weekends. Maybe you ought to show them this and tell them I'm going to institute this policy.
Not in my backyard.
Anyway, that's contender number 1. Here's contender number 2. The Colorado State Legislature. By the way, so there was a guy who's a member of the Colorado Legislature, and at one point, and he's an elected representative, but at one point when he was younger, he was actually in this country as an illegal alien. So he was giving a speech, on some piece of legislation, and he said, I was an illegal alien, and the chair gavelled him and stopped him and said, you can't use that language. And he said, why not? He said, because it's hurtful. He said, I'm talking about myself. I was an illegal. Oh, anyway, he was gavelled and reprimanded. And since that, and it was a big back and forth, telling a guy he can't describe what he was, that they won't permit that. Anyway, since that big blow up, they've actually come out, the House Rules Committee, Colorado House, has come out with words and phrases that cannot be used in either proposed legislation or during the debate of any proposed legislation. And those words and phrases include alien, illegal alien, undocumented alien, invaders, interlopers, or squatters. So between the woman who makes her guests poop in the backyard or the Colorado Legislature, and by the way, the First Amendment says government cannot restrict free speech. Well, the Colorado State Legislature is government, and them saying that you can't use these words is a clear violation of the First Amendment. And these people are legislators.
Why can't we use these words?
Well, because they're hurtful to other people. They're hurtful.
But if you're using them to describe yourself in the first person.
Or what if you're talking about a squatter? Well, people's homes are being, taken over by squatters. They're saying, no, that's hurtful. That's hurtful. You can't use the word squatter. You can't put it in legislation, and you can't even use it during a floor debate. Well, guess what? If anybody wants to challenge that, I think the first federal judge they go to would slap that down in a New York minute. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree for sure.
So which of those is the stupidest? A woman who won't let people poop?
I gotta say the first woman, I think, definitely is the stupidest thing I heard, but I adamantly disagree with the Colorado
legislatures.
Yeah.
Saying you can't use these words in debate.
Yeah.
Give me a freaking break. And by the way, many of these people are lawyers, and you're in the legislature and you don't understand what the First Amendment is. All right. Now let's move on. So you're familiar with the term loss leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's where a store, does something like on Black Friday. They sell TVs below cost to get you to come through the door, hoping you'll buy other stuff, right?
Yep.
Well, Ford, you've heard about the Ford, their electric truck where you can plug it in and power your house. You've
Mhm.
seen that Ford
Yep.
electric truck, right?
Yep.
Well, first quarter this year, they sold 10,000 electric vehicles, plus or minus. And they were keeping a separate set of books on that division. Do you know how much that division lost in just the first 3 months of this year?
100 grand.
Try $1.32 billion.
Oh my God. How
Now,
can
if you
you lose that
divide,
much on that many cars?
well, if you can't do the math in your head, if you divide 1.32 billion by 10,000 vehicles, that works out to a net loss of, drum roll please, $132,000 per vehicle.
Ugh.
They lost $132,000 for every
How
electric
much do
vehicle.
these vehicles cost to begin with in the first place?
Those trucks go for 70 or 80,000.
Ugh.
So if you tack on the loss, that means they're about 210. They work out to probably a total cost of over 200,000 a piece.
And what person in their right mind would spend that much on a car or a truck for that matter?
So you tell me now, could they
I
cut?
mean, I can't get over the fact that some people like Tesla owners spend 100 grand on the Teslas.
Well, but they get their $6,500 federal rebate, and a lot of places you get a $3,500 state rebate, and you can buy an inexpensive Tesla for 70 grand. So, if you get 70 grand and you get a $10,000 tax rebate, it's maybe 60 grand. But you're right, it's primarily affluent people. And by the way, if you have a Tesla, you need a charging station,
Yeah.
which means people in apartment houses that have to park in a parking lot typically don't buy a Tesla because most apartment complexes don't have charging stations. So they're typically bought by homeowners, affluent homeowners who
Mhm.
have a garage and can afford to put a charging station in. But I mean, this is mind-boggling. I'm just wondering how long Ford can continue to lose 1.3 billion per quarter, not for the year, per quarter.
Yeah.
Absolutely per quarter. I mean, mind-blowing. If you have any friends who are EV aficionados, you might want to share that.
Yeah, I do have a couple.
Yeah.
You can't talk sense into some of them, but
Well, I've got the link to the Yahoo Finance news articles. You just want to, when you get the show notes, to maybe just share the
yep.
Yahoo Finance article. Now, let's go into Rosie the Robot. This was on CBS News, and I have a little clip from CBS News, which I think is it's great. And by the way, the robot's got she's got a little screen. She's got a nice little voice. Let me play Rosie the Robot. Here we go.
A new employee at a California restaurant is proving popular with patrons, even though she lacks a human touch. In tonight's Weekend Journal, CBS's Itai Hot explains how replacing people with robots is coming up rosy.
At the Cajun Kraken Seafood Restaurant just east of San Francisco. Just that my life, something's cooking, and not just in the kitchen.
We walked in and we saw it moving around. It was very exciting to see.
I am leaving for delivery.
Meet Rosie the Robot. She's been working here for the last 2 months now, and she's already a favorite among customers.
Rosie's cute. I like Rosie.
Very futuristic.
That's kind of crazy.
Waitress Michelle Magno says from the moment Rosie was powered up,
I am leaving for delivery.
not only has the service gotten better, so have the tips.
People are excited to see her. A lot of my customers call her by Rosie now.
Rosie delivers food, picks up dirty dishes, and runs promotions on her screen. She can't actually take orders, at least not yet.
I am Rosie.
The best part, she's never sick, she's always on time, and for the most part, doesn't have an attitude.
The meal you ordered has arrived.
Officially called Lucky, she got her nickname Rosie because she reminded customers of another futuristic robot.
Rosie, you are worth your weight in leftovers. Thank you.
Seen as a solution to the industry's labor shortage, server robots are becoming increasingly popular, with tens of thousands gliding through restaurants across the nation. And although they can do a lot, there is at least one thing they can't do.
A lot of people still need like that human interaction.
Welcome to our restaurant.
And while it may be hard for some people to digest, Rosie the Robot is here to stay. Just don't push her buttons.
Now leave me alone. I have work to do.
Itai Hot, CBS News, Concord, California.
By the way, on her screen, she has a big smiling face on her touch screen. Have you seen one yet?
I have not.
But you've been in a restaurant like Chili's where you can actually order your meal from the little wireless tablet on the table, right?
Yeah, and I have, and I have to say I'm not a fan. Being in a customer service industry, I feel like, that's not very customer service.
Well, but of course, you're not in California where
I don't
minimum
know.
wage is $20 an hour now. So
Also, the grocery store, the self-checkouts, I hate using the self-checkouts.
yeah, I'm still waiting for my W-2 for all the work I did at my Walmart
Yeah.
shutdown. So anyway, so it's coming. And again, if you've got a wireless tablet on your table and Rosie can, which of course would send your order to the kitchen. And then if your kitchen can put your order on one of her trays and, you really, I don't think all waitresses will go away, but if you might have had, 6 or 7 waitresses in a restaurant, yeah, maybe you're going to go down to 2 now. So anyway, so this is another example that when labor costs get too high, there's labor shortages.
Mhm.
A 30-year-old strategy, in fact, one I used when I used to work for my first employer, is we would always look at substituting capital for labor. In other words, can we buy a fancy machine that can do it faster and cheaper than 2 or 3 guys doing the same thing? So that's what you're seeing in the restaurant industry. And you saw it starting a couple years ago with the self-ordering kiosks in the McDonald's.
Yeah.
Right? You walk in,
Yeah.
and instead of going up to a cashier, you order from the kiosk. Well, that was one of the early examples of automation and eliminating the cashier. And Rosie the Robot now that was a fast food restaurant. And Rosie the Robot is just the next logical extension of substituting, capital and technology for labor. So be interesting. Let me know when you see the first one. I'll let you know if I see one
I mean, I
first.
see, we do a lot of online ordering around here. And during COVID, it allowed us to pivot very quickly of not wanting people to wait in line to order their deli sandwich from the person behind the counter making their sandwich, that they could just place their order online and not have to wait in line. They could just pick it up when it was ready. And with respect to the pizza, we have very uniformed pizzas being made,
Right.
to the exact ounce of sauce, to the exact ounce of cheese. So there's definitely a place I see benefits, but
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to another failure of communism. So last week we talked about Haiti, right? Haiti and Dominican Republic, it's sharing the same island of Hispaniola. One
Yep.
is flourishing, the other is collapsing.
Yep.
Well, less than 100 miles away, we have another one that's collapsing. The communist paradise of Cuba that has had free healthcare and free college forever, they're following in Venezuela's footsteps, and we all know what happened in Venezuela, right? Their currency became
Yep.
worthless, and
Yep.
people are fleeing. Well, here's the latest and of course, people have been fleeing Cuba in makeshift rafts for years. By the way, have you ever seen anybody from the U.S. fleeing the U.S. in a makeshift raft trying to get to Cuba?
I have not.
No, it hasn't ever happened. Anyway, 4 years ago, the Cuban peso was worth the equivalent of $1 US. You know what that peso is worth today, just 4 years later?
It's not worth a lot of money at all.
4 cents.
Yeah.
4 cents. And they're literally running out of cash. I mean, so people are, because, when you have to pay, 100 pesos, which used to be $100 for a dozen eggs. By the way, a dozen eggs is now 3,100 pesos. So people, remember we talked about in Venezuela, I think we talked about this a year ago. In Venezuela, it is now literally cheaper to wipe your butt with a bolivar than to use it to buy toilet paper. Well, that's where Cuba is now. A dozen eggs is 3,100 pesos.
Glad
And
I don't have to buy eggs there or in California.
right, but because everything is now taking so many pesos to buy, the banks are running out of cash. The ATMs are running out of cash. Now here's what happened. The official rate for use by government industries and agencies is 24 pesos to the dollar. In other words, if you go to a government-run bank and give them $1, they'll give you 24 pesos. However, the unofficial rate is 350 pesos to the dollar. So if you go anywhere, like if you go into a shop and you give them $10, they'll give you 3,500 Cuban pesos and change. That's how desperate they are for hard currency. Inflation, by the way, so inflation is over 1,000% in the last 4 years.
Wow.
So again, you have another communist paradise, and just rack them up: North Korea versus South Korea, Haiti versus Dominican Republic, Venezuela versus Brazil, and now you have Cuba versus, you pick it, but the Bahamas. I mean, I think Cuba to the Bahamas is like 30 miles. And the only thing different, it's same ocean, same climate, same soil. The only thing different is their economic and political system.
When was it about 10 years ago or so when the embargo ended and stuff? I thought life would get better for Cubans, and it obviously hasn't.
No, it hasn't. And again, people are still fleeing. By the way, there's a food shortage now because they have to import a lot of their food.
Mhm.
And all the people who, all the foreign companies that sell things to Cuba say, no, we don't want your pesos. You give us, we want either euros or we want US dollars, but we don't want your pesos. So, and of course, they don't have a lot of foreign currency. So they're running out of imported food, imported goods, even imported medicine. Again, you can die if you step on a rusty nail. Yeah, medical care is free, but if the hospital can't afford to buy a tetanus vaccine, you're going to die because you stepped on a rusty nail. Because free medical care is no good if they don't have any medicine to treat you with.
Yeah.
All
And it
right.
was exactly 10 years ago, by the way. It was December of 2014. I was pretty good.
Very well, very good. Hey, how much time we got?
You got about 15 minutes.
All right. Well, we're blowing through this, so I guess I can slow down a little bit. Let's talk about the guy who killed. So, in case you haven't heard, police, federal marshals and local police were trying to serve a arrest warrant on a felon in Charlotte, North Carolina. When they got there, the guy came out shooting. He shot a total of 8 local police and U.S. Marshals, killed 4. Now, he was a convicted felon by the name of Terry Clark Hughes Jr. And of course, he was using a gun he was not legally allowed to possess. So once again, we talk about the failure of gun control. This guy's a convicted felon, and he had multiple guns, by the way. This was just one. So again, we have a convicted felon using an illegal gun. And again, you cannot stop felons and criminals from getting guns. Senator Joe Biden said many, many years ago, in 1985, I believe, that he was convinced that no gun law will stop a determined criminal from getting a gun by illegal means, and he was absolutely correct. All right. So any comment on felons getting guns?
Yeah, again, I was just thinking, we had the Pennsylvania primary last week, and I know the New Jersey primary is coming up. You gotta vote in these primaries for your district attorneys and your judges to put stricter laws in place.
All right. All right. For those who are interested, if you want to see the video of this thing, producer Susan's going to put the link up on the website. It's you've seen these little 4-legged robot dogs. They look like dogs with 4 legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a company has added a flamethrower on top of one that can be operated remote control. And the thing's cool. It scampers around and you push a button and it shoots a flame 30 feet out in front of it. It's just cooler than hell. It's called the Therminator. And it's you can buy one for $9,420.
For the man who has everything.
For the man who has everything. For somebody who's really created, he might even be able to create one. I'm sure the robot is, I don't know what those little robot dogs cost. I'm sure that's the bulk, because the flamethrower itself is not that complicated. So I'm sure the bulk of the cost is in the little thing, but can you imagine having a flamethrower dog?
I mean, that exact dog, the technology, that robot, they are becoming popular with some law enforcement and first responders for some like bombs, and they definitely do have a purpose for the way that they can move and the way that they can maneuver some uneven ground.
Yep. Yeah, and they have this thing going over uneven ground. So let me just read you the product description. The Therminator, the product of Ohio flamethrower manufacturer ThrowFlame, is a 26-pound robotic quadruped that comes equipped with one of the company's characteristic arc flamethrowers mounted on its back. The robot can shoot fire in a 30-foot stream and comes with a built-in fuel tank powered by gasoline. The company says the robot also has an hour-long battery, a laser sight, LiDAR mapping, and can be remotely controlled by the company's app. So there you go.
And I bet they don't bark like my real dog
They don't
barks.
bark. They don't bark.
Stranger danger.
Stranger danger. All right. So we're blowing through this. It was probably good because it's getting late. Anyway, so let's talk about our taxpayer relief shot and why we call them taxpayer relief shots. And here we go. We call them a taxpayer relief shot because let's go to the sheriff of Santa Rosa County, Florida.
If somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully you'll save the taxpayers money.
And then we have time for two more, right? For my Sheriff Grady Judge.
Yep.
All right. Here's Sheriff Grady Judd out of Polk
I
County.
would suggest that if a looter breaks into your home, comes into your home while you're there to steal stuff, that you take your gun and you shoot him. You shoot him so that he looks like grated cheese.
And one of my all-time favorites, I love this one from Sheriff Grady Judge out of Polk County.
But we have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
I love that. Blow you back out of the house with their guns. That's one of my favorites. All right. So let's move on to our closing taxpayer relief shot out of Hapsville, Georgia. And again, typical scenario, you get two armed thugs try to rob a guy, not realizing the gun might be armed too. And of course, as usual, one winds up DRT. And what does DRT stands for?
Dead right there.
And of course, and the second guy, rather than help his buddy, oh, Bob, hang on, Bob, I'll help you, Bob. Now, let's see what the second guy does. Here we go.
Action News exclusive. The victim of an attempted armed robbery says he was forced to shoot in self-defense, and now body cam video shows police take down a suspect. A 911 call reveals a clearly terrifying situation.
Signal 911, where is your emergency?
Somebody in the top floor at a parking deck.
We first told you about this deadly shooting earlier this month, and now Channel 2's Michael Seiden is live outside the Hapeville Police Department. Michael, one suspect died, and the other one is now in jail.
Yeah, Linda, really some dramatic moments. As you mentioned, about 9 days ago, we were here at the police department. We learned about this wild incident. So we drove right across the street, right through those trees. You can see that apartment complex where this all went down. At the time, the victim did not want to talk, but tonight we actually have those desperate calls for help. We also have more of that exclusive body camera footage.
Signal 911, where is your emergency?
Somebody in the top floor at a parking deck. His car was parked next to mine. He got out of the car, said, "Hey, bro, don't move." Pointed a gun at me. I pulled my gun and I stopped.
In these newly released 911 calls, we hear the voice of a Hapeville man in his 30s who told dispatchers that he just fired in self-defense after an armed robber cornered him as he walked out to his car parked on the top floor of this apartment complex parking deck earlier this month. As the dispatcher attempted to keep the victim calm,
Just take a deep breath.
the victim explained how after he shot and killed the armed suspect, he ran back to his apartment to protect himself from a second suspect.
Is your door unlocked?
No, hell no, my door is locked.
Okay.
I'm in my room with my girl, and there was two of them, and somebody in the passenger seat of the car.
The victim is talking about Alton Coleman. Witnesses reported seeing Coleman running away from the scene. Minutes later, police tracked him down near this church where they found him using the sidewalk as a public bathroom. No.
What?
He had his pants down around his ankle, peeing on the sidewalk.
Gun in, man. I ain't never had no gun.
Police arrested and charged Coleman with murder and aggravated assault.
Put your knees up to your chest, roll over, stand up.
It looks like they've got both the suspects. So that's great.
Yeah, we can also tell you that that surviving suspect, he remains in jail at this hour. He's expected to make his next court appearance next month. We are live in Hapeville. Michael Seiden, Channel 2 Action News.
So why was the second thug charged with murder if he didn't kill anybody?
Because the death in commission of a felony, all the players get charged with the felony.
That's absolutely correct. If you're participating in a felony and somebody dies during the participation of a felony, even if you didn't pull the trigger, if you're driving the getaway car, you're sitting out in the parking lot, and somebody dies inside, even if it dies from a heart attack, you can be charged with murder. So anyway, that's our podcast for today. Any comments before we wrap up?
No, so officially it is April 30th. So still April, but the last 3 days, it has been well over 80 degrees here. Global warming?
Well, it was 88 here yesterday, and today it was 61 all day.
Oh, nice. It touched 80 here today. It's going to be close to 80 all week until Saturday. It won't cool off until Saturday.
Well, hopefully you can get, I understand you're getting some new central air put in your house. So hopefully
I am.
so
My old ones are hanging in there by a thread.
by thread.
But
All
they've
right.
been running hard the last 3 days.
Well, good luck with that. All right. Anyway, before we run out of time, I want to thank anybody who listened to this podcast for giving up 30 minutes out of your busy day to listen to me ramble on about the things that I find of interest and importance. And if you found them as interesting and important as I did, I hope you continue to listen to this podcast in the weeks and months to come. If you want to see some of the materials and story links you heard me talk about today, give producer Susan a day or two, and you can find links to them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerzeejoe.com, and you spell Jerzee, 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 jerzeejoe.com. If you want to send me a comment, question, or suggested show topic, you can do that just by sending an email to just joe@jerzeejoe.com. And again, just remember to spell Jerzee with Jerzee with an R and a Z and double E. And other than that, producer Susan, unless you've got something else, we'll wrap this one up. Anything else you want to add?
Nope. Stay cool.
I will. You too. You
I
take
feel
care.
like we went from winter to summer overnight.
All right. Talk to you next week. You take care.
Bye-bye.